sorry. Okay, so I think as the title says, I'm going to talk about the emblem system. I heard earlier that there's a great interest in emblem system here, and the desire that PDC really have to promote this with the real estate companies here in Penang. Although I think Penang is quite advanced in real estate, maybe compared to some other areas of Malaysia. It's certainly a market that's driven by high-rise. Okay. So, how to promote and deploy broadband. We've heard a good part just about deployment, so I'll try and spell out a little bit about promoting it. And this is an option, as I see it, for Penang PDC Telecom to drive on broadband deployment FTTH in Penang. So why consider recognition system? Well, it should be driven into the developer sector. It allows us to develop a standard, set services, speed and capability for a broadband system, preferably FTTH. It enhances and drives community benefits. The standard will drive competition. So drive competition among telcos, drive competition among developers. It can be rewarding for the real estate sector. Please buy into it. It can be rewarding for the real estate sector. You will see benefits from it. You'll see benefits against your competitors. And don't wait too long to do it. Do it when you're building new developments if you can. Put the broadband enabling system into the development. Don't wait until you've finished it and then think, oh, I need to get fiber optic cables in here. Assurance to the homeowners, to your customers of the developers. Assure them that they are getting the best available in the world today, and that should be available to them in Malaysia. Vice providers, I don't think I meant to have vice providers, but and telcos, it should say service providers, and telcos will battle for the space if you have the ability to deliver vice to them. I just wanted to show you what fiber can deliver, because I didn't see anybody really showing this, but when you're in this sector, you need to look at what's going to come if I do put this fiber in. What can we do? So I've got this thing, and I don't know how many Dutch people are in the audience, but this is written in Dutch because it's the only sample of this I could find. I do have an English version, but I couldn't find it. And what we've looked at here is delivering, I need my specs, delivering 24 digital photos. And I think this is something that everybody likes to do. You like to download photos of family and friends. A lot of people use Facebook. I'm not an advocate of Facebook, but personally, I don't have a Facebook account. I'm scared of it. And I don't want to see what everyone's eating for every meal. Anyhow, let's just look at how long it takes if we have very high speed broadband, 1 gigabit speed broadband to download photos. And then as you watch the graphic, you'll see if you've got other speeds, but even 10 meg, and I heard somebody talk about 10 meg earlier, look how long it's taking just to download 24 photos. Yeah, 12 seconds. We'll stop it because it gets boring. Right? But look, it would have took 46 minutes to download them at the speed a lot of people will have in the room here today. And even with very good DSL, it takes 3 to 4 minutes. It's too long. I don't want to show you how long it'll take to download a video, because you really will be sitting here until tomorrow. So this is really, oh, I don't know, something's gone wrong here. this really does enhance things for the real estate sector. So buy into it, real estate developers. Buy into the fact that if you go with fibre, you are going to see enhancement in opportunities that come to you. You're going to be more competitive. You're going to have a higher profile. And you really are going to see benefits of putting fibre optic into your developments. People who already have real estate, building management companies, look at this as an opportunity to enhance the experience for your tenants. Get them to buy in. Be able to sell it to your tenants, to your body corporates, to really improve the life enhancements of the people living there. I think it makes the region here in Penang, in Malaysia, a more attractive place to live, to have a lot of the lifestyle enhancements that come with FTTH. It enables e-government. I think we heard some things earlier about e-government from Bernard. It enhances entertainment experiences, and this is one of the big driving forces today is gaming. Gaming is a great area of development and a big user of bandwidth, and it really drives that on. That creates other jobs in the community. People have got to develop these games. It's all about GDP growth. And overall, it gives you a lot of worldwide access. So everybody, I think, today is using IP telephony and things. Certainly, I use Skype a lot to talk for business and for my own personal communication with family who don't live here in Malaysia. So, I'm supposed to talk about emblem systems. Well, basically things are changing in emblem systems, and there's essentially 3 operating. One in Korea, one in Taiwan, and one in the USA. And there are some subtle differences between them and subtle differences between their stages of development. And maybe when we leave here today, PDC will be deciding on whether they want to enter into be another emblem system. So, Korea. This was started, actually, believe it or not, way back in 1999. The MIC in Korea started it with copper. They decided what would be put in high-rise. If any of you are familiar with Korea, and I met some people from Korea, so I guess they are, and you have with the system in Korea a very ambitious rollout idea or government-supported idea to enhance the communications in their real estate sector. Now in Korea you have a real estate sector which also is interfered with by many FTTH companies, such as Samsung, such as Daewoo, and you have a lot of great thinking out of organizations such as KAIST and ETRI who contributed to this. But what happened was that MIC got together and decided to bring in a system to reward developers. And this emblem system was developed. And in 2004, it actually started to be deployed. What happened was that developers really jumped on the bandwagon, wanted to get into this, and wanted to enhance their offering to the general market and fight for a place in the real estate sector more and more as time went on. So from 2004, you saw a real growth in Korea to take them to where they are today, to be the #1 in the world for broadband deployment, of which a large part is FTTH and FTTB, and then I'll show you some statistics later. So the emblem system was a one that had 4 classes, the super class being the ultimate, and somebody, I think Dr. Awang this morning, mentioned that 4 fibers would be enough to provide Malaysia with all the bandwidth it needs. In Korea, they were putting 4 fibers to an apartment if you had a super class apartment, 2 multi-mode and 2 single mode, because they wanted to be technology agnostic. A bold play, and it happened a lot, because nobody wants to be second, nobody just wants to be first class, they all wanted to be super class. But in fact, there was a lot of first class and third classes where copper stayed. And here, I'm going to struggle to read, but you can see with oops, with Superclass, we have 4 fibers per apartment and a 1 gigabit delivery. Go back to the fiber speed thing. Look what 1 gigabit delivery can give you. Yeah, 1 gigabit is where we are today with GPON systems. This is still a very, very good delivery. And today, if people have got 30 megabits, they're usually pretty delighted. So this is what Korea did. But, you know, this has moved on a lot since then. And although you've got very happy Korean families with this 1 gigabit delivery, it really was just in its infancy in 2000, or middle of its development in 2006, having started in 2004, excuse me. So one of the things from my point of view, because I work for MTEL and we make blown fiber systems, was that blown fiber was chosen as the delivery method for most of these deployments in Korea. And this was because it's versatile. So while they started off with 4 fibers to get super category, now they can just put 2 fibers in, and they prepared the apartments and the construction for this so they could drop back to 2 single mode fibers now. So you can see here typical examples of installation using blown fiber to deliver in these apartments, which were very new in 2006. This was a site I visited during an FTTH council meeting in Korea, where we arranged visits to see this happening, because it was still very new in 2006. So Korea was a success with their emblem system. It did what they set out to do. And you know, by 2004 and today, 2012, you can say the system in Korea is finished. They're not promoting the emblem system so strongly as they did, because over these 8 years, it's achieved its objective. So moving on, a little way from Korea to Taiwan. Taiwan had similar ambitions, and they had also developed a system, silver and gold. And the thing is, in Taiwan, the same thing happened. Once this was introduced, the developers all competed with each other, and they all wanted to be part of the fiber to the home revolution that was happening. And they became that way, and a lot of fiber to the home is going on in Taiwan today, in high rise, where fiber is going right to the apartment, just like it did in Korea. And it's also progressed rapidly. Again, my company was very active with Chunghwa Telecom in Taiwan, and we've installed a lot of blown fiber into apartments in Taiwan. And I heard someone maybe from Fujikura talking about different ways of dropping blown fiber into the apartments. And in Taiwan, they do all of this. They have stage splitting, they have distributed splitters, they have centrally located splitters. And it just depends what space is available in the rises, the controlling step, as to what method you might choose to use. So here's a floor drop situation. And what's interesting in Taiwan, driving Chunghwa Telecom, the incumbent telco, to do it. There's not a lot of competition in Taiwan for telcos. But now, private developers, rather than paying Chunghwa Telecom to do this installation, are installing the fiber systems themselves. So you've got a system where the developers have said, hold on a minute, we don't need you to do this, we don't need to pay you extra to do this, we can do it in the construction phase. And I think that in itself is a victory. That means that going forward, fiber is being built in day one. So they've developed a good system in Taiwan, and it's very well documented. And Taiwan, maybe Chinese people don't realize, but it is very regimented, and they are very strict in the way they operate systems. And they have a good system and a well-documented web-based system where you go to apply as a developer to get these gratings on your apartments. And it takes cooperation from everyone. Here you can see quite an extensive list of things that have to be completed and provided to the government to get this certification. So, success in Taiwan. They've achieved what they set out to achieve and get fiber to the home. And this was an initiative, again, started in about 2005, 2006. And today, if you talk to people about this initiative in Taiwan, they think it's automatic now. They'll always do it. So, as I say, it's a success. So emblem systems can be a success in driving FTTH. In both Korea and Taiwan, there's a predominance of high-rise. So most of these apply to high-rise. There's not a lot in single-dwelling units, although FTTH is happening in single-dwelling units as well. So in the recent situation, as I alluded to earlier, in Korea and Taiwan, systems are successful. They've sort of slowed down a little bit, but in Taiwan particularly, they are still registering properties. In Korea, when I talk to friends and business associates from Korea, and you said to them, how's the emblem system? And they said, well, it's there, but it's not so important as it was because it's worked. So it's just happening now. Oh, I must have gone backwards. So, come to the USA. Those of you who are in the know will realize that this is a symbol that FTTH Council USA use, because FTTH Council are the organization that are pushing some sort of certification system in the US. There's not so much government support for this. It is driven on a more commercial basis by the council in the US. I've done it again. So this again is a way to give recognition, but driven by the council. And later on, I'll talk a little bit about what the council might do here. Unlike Taiwan and Korea, I mean, the US is much bigger. It's rural, so there's not so much high-rise, although some does exist, and I've certainly seen what Verizon are doing in the likes of New York. But this certification is applying to single-dwelling units, to detached houses in the vast acreage of the US, and it's been applied for by communities. So there's a lot of local fiber companies, local service providers who are using this to show we've got fiber to this premises and we want everybody to see, and we want the guy next door to do the same. So it's driving, to some extent, neighborhood schemes. And a lot of local cable companies are now putting in fiber, and cable doesn't mean coax. Now cable means fiber cable. So the sad part about it in the US, for me anyhow, is that the major telcos haven't yet adopted this. So the likes of Verizon are not playing in this game yet. And I hope to see that they do in the future. So as I said, mainly used in single house connections. And we look at some world rankings and we'll see where the US is. They're 11th. The other two I talked about are in the top 4. So the system from Fiber to the Home US is also well documented. It's also web-based. And it's called a standard for network certification for service providers for quality for use of the fiber connected home badge. So they've got to prove that they're worthy of this. And again, they have to come onto the web, fill out all the boxes, much like the Taiwanese system. And then they can apply for the use of this logo from FTTH in the US, and I don't know how to use the pointer, but the white spot is where they would put their logo. Okay, I just mentioned world rankings, and the US was 11th, which is the bottommost red arrow. The top 2, and you can see the very top one, is Korea, and they've been there for some time. But one of the things about Korea is it's not all FTTH direct. There is a fair bit of FTTB, and then because they can get class 2 or class 1 and not super class, they can actually use copper to complete the system. Today that's getting less attractive and more costly as copper prices rise. You can see in 4th place is Taiwan, and again, it's the same color scenario. You have fiber to the building, with a lot of LAN cabling in the drop. This is changing, I expect. As this is quite old now, this is 2010 data. If we go on, we'll see that transition. And if we look at Asia, and this is more recent data, 2011, we can see, again, Korea is still outstanding. And we can see that FTTH is slowly increasing. And we can see, again, Taiwan. But Taiwan is shown all as FTTB. That is changing now, and I would question that statistic, actually, from what I know is actually going on in Taiwan. But you see Hong Kong is there, and Hong Kong Broadband make a lot of noise in the press. Nearly all of their systems are copper-based, fiber to the building. So that one I don't challenge so much. And Japan, of course, is transitioning more and more to fiber all the time, and is one of the most fiber-connected countries if we just look at fiber. But if we really look at fiber, Norway's probably the best one. So, what about Malaysia? Where are we going? Apa kabar? Could an emblem system accelerate FTTH here? Well, from the evidence that we have, and it isn't widespread on emblem systems, the answer should be yes. If we compare with Taiwan, compare with Korea. And a country without an emblem system, Singapore, not so far away. Come on, we've got to fight with the Singaporeans. We don't want to let them rub our nose in the soil, do we? So, developers here are aggressive. At least many of them contact me 3 times a day to buy a house. So, you know, I think there's a good chance that we can get the developers to buy into this, because they're all looking for an edge over each other. So come on, guys, gloves off and get stuck in. So an opportunity for Penang and PDC to lead the way here. So just to recap, why consider it? All of these reasons. And I have a little addition at the bottom, some comments from OECD. And extracting from OECD, what bandwidth do they see is required? Because I think it's important that we get this right. We don't want, 50 gig. We don't want 512 kilobits a second. We want 30 meg. This is the minimum thing that OECD are pushing. It should be a 30 meg service. Now in Malaysia, some 30 meg services exist. We were personally involved in installing a 30 meg service in Bangsar. And I think today, Maxis are offering 10, 20, and 30 meg, depending on how much you want to dip your hand into your pocket. But as I showed you in the fiber speed demo, 10 meg is not that fantastic, really. So this is why OECD see this. And I'm struggling, but over at the top right-hand side, you can see why. It's because what it does for the biggest entertainment thing that most of us watch is TV, IPTV, high-definition channels. Talking to Jeff Oy earlier, he's complaining because it's going to cost a lot to get an antenna put on the roof of his condo to get beyond. Well, let's deliver it over IPTV and don't have these high costs and don't have the maintenance. So service provider benefits that come from this as well. Right? There's many advantages for the service providers because they're the ones that have the opportunity to earn more money out of this because they can deliver more. They can deliver more, they can charge you more. Might turn everybody into a couch potato to some extent, I'm afraid, but this is a downside risk of FTTH. No one wants to leave home. So new revenue options, and especially IPTV, I feel. And I agree with OECD in that respect. There's a general acceptance that fiber OpEx is cheaper than copper OpEx. I think these days that's not too much of an arguable point. So when you build a fiber network, it's going to cost you less to maintain it than it would have a copper network, irrespective of all of the other advantages. And improved network reliability is part of that. I'm afraid I ate too many chilies at lunchtime. The possibility to coordinate central offices is there as well. It's easier. And the future-proof, we heard a few times future-proof mentioned, the future-proof nature of the optical network, especially in FTTH. There's nowhere else to go. We can deliver 1 terabit on a fiber if we put the right things on the end of it. Okay. Some socio-economic benefits. It's in communities and the enhancement of dragging people into the community to live there. You want a lot of people in Penang so that you can just generate and grow Penang as an economy. So total boosting of economic growth in any region that deploys FTTH. And I did try and find something but ran out of time because there's some good papers out of Europe on GDP growth due to FTTH. So it enhances the community. It makes it a place people want to live because they feel they're connected to the rest of the world. It creates new opportunities and new businesses in the E-sector. And it can generally increase efficiency. Increase efficiency for public services, increase efficiency for education and medicine. So life just gets better. Okay, some things the OECD had looked at as well is the transition from not fiber to the home, but just general connection. And some of the developing countries, as well as the developed countries, have really come up. While Korea is still leading, Switzerland jumps into the fray. And remember, it's OECD, so not everybody's there. The Netherlands has gone up in bounds. Denmark is a very connected country, and we know that as a company because we know what we've done there. Mainly, not through telcos, but by pseudo-telcos or, I think they call them in the States, CLECs. The power companies are coming in very strongly in delivering fiber to the home. They can have smart metering, but they've got a billing system. They've got an address for every home in their system. So to bring in another system is very low cost for them. Something maybe could be looked at as an enhancement here in Penang. But it's also interesting to see the change and the growth that's happening in Greece, Poland, and Chile are particularly outstanding. So some of the dynamics are changing. I still didn't see Malaysia mentioned, unfortunately. So if we look now at their statistics, you can see it's a little bit different to what I showed you earlier. Korea's there, but in 6th place. And none of the other people I mentioned are there at all. So it's quite a different type of graph and quite a different perspective on it. And rather than go through this in detail, I think it's better, I think everyone will get this, and you can have a look at this if you're interested. So, possibilities and requirements. First of all, for this to happen at all, if it's going to happen in Malaysia, it needs a champion. Who can be that champion? Well, maybe FTTH Council, Asia Pacific, can be that champion. And I think you need buy-in from MCMC, who we heard from earlier, for it to really work. And the standard needs to be set. What are we looking to deliver here in Penang? You know, this is something that, that certainly PDC need to look at. And one place they can look to find the standard that needs to be set is maybe to, again, FTTH Council North America and what they're demanding to get their badge. You can adopt or you could create. You can start from a blank sheet of paper. But there are some things out there we can all learn from. And promotion will be necessary. I think this is maybe the first step in that promotion today. So we started on that already. So you need to create an FTTX. I'm not going to say just FTTH, an FTTX master plan. So how do we go about it, and what's possible partners? I mentioned already. So here we can have FTTH Council, we can have MCMC and PDC all together to set up this emblem system. So it's a little bit repetitive, but success will come if we get the civil and construction right. We get the competency right. It needs to be good. And we need to have capable people doing it. We need to have the right customer equipment. But I stress, I would like to see a fairly agnostic system, not too dependent on one technology or another, to leave room open for RSPs, telcos, and other things we haven't thought about yet to come into the system. We must think future-proof. And then, of course, it's all driven by content. FTTH is nothing without things being passed over it. So without content, it's not going to work either. And we are ready to assist. I think quite a few of us have come here today, and we're ready. Thank you.